Hi. I'm Will Oldham. I represent Bonnie Prince Billy. I'm at Amoeba Records, and here's what's in my bag.
Maybe we'll always be this way. After our terrific night comes dark night. You may run away. Yes, you may.
So I picked out a book. It's called Cocaine and Rhinestones. I think it's almost a transcription of the second season of the podcast made by Tyler May & Co. It's a fancy book. It's a little awkwardly laid out, like these lines are super long and you have to really focus. You might as well maybe just listen to the podcast. But also, Co, for some reason, reached out to me, sent me a copy of this book, a free copy of this book, and I never really understood why, except for now I'm just returning the favor by saying that there's a lot of incredible material in here that's super inspiring and interesting about country music in general and about the story of George Jones and Tammy Wynette, their professional lives, their personal lives, and how country music worked in and around them during their heyday. He does his research. He's an amazing scholar of country music.
A reporter asks George Jones what advice he'd give to country singers trying to become a star like him. Jones' advice is essentially, don't.
And then a little more country we go because Miranda Lambert, because I love Miranda Lambert.
She did it all fire, and if there's one thing that she loved, right, let's take forever to burn.
My fantasy these days is that one day I could potentially write a song for Miranda Lambert.
What kind of song would you want to write for her?
Well, it would be a huge challenge because she's a good songwriter. And then the songs that she doesn't write on her records are usually pretty strong. And so it would just be a great challenge to think like, well, what could I do that would interest her to sing? Because she obviously cares about what she filters through her vocal cords. This is her newest record and there's bangers on it. One of my favorite songs these days is Way Too Good at Breaking My Heart. Oh my gosh, line after line after line. The chorus, oh, it's just so beautiful. She sings a lot about getting wasted and partying too hard. And this one, in the chorus, she parties too hard, but she doesn't regret it. Instead, she's like, the sunlight is coming in, like on your naked body. And I'm thinking like, oh, I'm ready to do that again.
But when it's over and everyone's over, I see sun on your skin. I wanna do it again.
I was very excited to see these Russ Meyer movies. These movies are interesting. Vixen is, have you ever seen this Vixen movie? It's really upsetting. It's really disturbing. He deals with obsession and violence and racism in really uncomfortable ways. And it's sold as softcore pornography, which it also is softcore pornography. He made a bunch of movies, including famously Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill, Lorna, Mudhoney, and then he made kind of his grand statement, which was Super Vixens, in which all of the women who were his lead characters in the previous movies come back, but with the prefix super added to their name. So like Vixen now is Super Vixen, and then there's Haji, who was in Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill. She's Super Haji and Super Vixens. And this sort of like this magnum opus bringing together all these plot lines and themes, because he's usually got a very intense narration going on through his movies, which are offering very poetic, powerful social commentary on top of the insanity of the way that he portrays sex in his movies. Apparently these have a bunch of extra features, which I think the Laserdiscs had, but he owned his masters. And when he was alive, the only way you could get his movies was from his company. He owned and distributed all of his own VHS, and he made, because he was a photographer first. So everything looks beautiful, sounds beautiful. Another book, High Times, Hard Times by Anita O'Day. I have another edition of this book. I think she calls herself a song stylist as opposed to a singer, which is what I fancy myself as well, a song stylist like Anita O'Day. But I also like this genre of a musician's autobiography, and they just talk about nuts and bolts, and they talk about arrangements, and they talk about clubs and interpersonal dynamics in the band with other musicians. And she had a lot of, high times, hard times. She was a junkie, and she talks about, success, failure, but ultimately the music being the lifeline that carries her through. And I like that kind of book.
I tied off and tried to hit one of the veins on the outside of my arm. I missed. I tried again, and again I missed. The third try, I hit, drew out blood, waited, plunged it back in, withdrew it, and plunged it back again for an extra zing.
I just wanted to say I picked the purple bag because purple is one of my favorite colors, one of my daughter's favorite colors, my mother's favorite color, and we have a brand new record called The Purple Bird. So I'm trying to do some purple things. So yeah, talking about this brand new record, The Purple Bird, there's a couple things I pulled out here. One was this Johnny Cash record, which I sing on, and this is where I met my dear friend David Ferguson from Goodlettsville, Tennessee, who is the producer of this record, The Purple Bird. So I met him coming here to Los Angeles to sing on this, because Cash sings a song that I wrote called I See a Darkness.
Did you know how much I love you? Here's a hope that somehow you can save me from this darkness.
We went over to Rick Rubin's house, and that's where I met Ferg, and I was so nervous, but Ferg, he's like a dark Winnie the Pooh, kind of. So he's very comforting in that way, and nothing comes out of his mouth, for the most part, that doesn't just make absolute insane sense. It's like he just nails reality with each of his utterances. That sometimes that's not what you want to hear, I guess, because sometimes he'll be like, all right, I'm going home, or that kind of thing. But anyway, this was a huge deal, and over the years, working with Ferg, we made a Everly Brothers record together, also with the singer Don McCarthy from Fawn Fables. There's a song on here called I'm on My Way Home Again, claims to be written by Terry Slater, who was the bass player with the Everlys. He had a stroke about 2 years ago. Just as I got his email address, I tried to write him. He sent me a very polite response, but he was not in the mood to wax eloquent about his experience with the Everly Brothers. But one of the things I wanted to ask him about, there's numerous songs credited to Terry Slater in the Everly Brothers oeuvre, but I think they were Don Everly compositions that Don Everly was hiding the ownership of the copyright from his wives and ex-wives and things like that, so that he wouldn't have to share the royalties. That's the puzzle that I'm putting together. I'm not sure if that's true. This is a weird compilation of songs, but it's got amazing songs. We did Poems, Prayers, and Promises on the What the Brothers Sang was the record we did. And then I did I'm on My Way Home Again. We did it live. We added it to the live set.
I put my guitar in a gunny sack and walk away and I won't look back. And when the whistle blows my name, I'll say, woo woo, I'm on my way home again.
I got a Sesame Street record for my daughter.
At the party, great block party at the party, great block party at the party.
She has a record player, and there's a couple of Sesame Street records that I had growing up that she has played obsessively on her record player. So songs like Block Party, The Shimshaw Jamboree, Blowin' My Bubbles.
Blowing my, growing my, throwing my bubbles, floating my, flying high in the sky bubbles.
We're going to Indonesia for a moment, just because I'm in the record store, and that's what I do now when I go to the record stores. I usually go straight to the world section, because that's where you're going to find things that are unpredictable, you know? Because you never know what a record store is going to be able to maintain in their world section or what people might have brought in used. There was a series that Smithsonian Folkways did in the 90s, Music of Indonesia. It was 20-volume CDs that just changed my life, blew my mind, and I found that again and again I can go to whatever examples of recorded music that I can find from Indonesia, and oftentimes find that perhaps in another life I was an Indonesian music listener. This is a comp of like psychedelic rock from Indonesia called Those Shocking Shaking Days, and I'm going to get this from my friend Devi, with whom I stay when I'm in Los Angeles, because he does not have this record, and anybody who likes music would love this record.
Suck you out, throw you out, get in your hair, baby.
And then similarly, this is very exciting, Malay Arabic variations from 1960s Indonesia. So what we're looking at here is, I'm guessing, something that's potentially, I'm not sure if there's going to be religious themes to this music, but it's going to be a melding of musical styles, Malay Arabic variations from 1960s Indonesia. So what I'm listening for, the Indonesian uplift, we'll say, that might be injected into the Arabic styles of music, brought there because Islamic population is massive in Indonesia. There was a group called Surasama. that I first heard on the Smithsonian Folkways Indonesian series. Unfortunately, it was kind of a duo, and the male half of the duo passed away a couple of years ago. But they have multiple records out. Drag City has done at least one of them, and they hybridize musical styles, again, just like pushing it through this Indonesian filter, I guess, that sort of makes everything glow. It's beautiful.
Tapi kini engkau tinggalkan diriku merana seorang.
Because I'm wearing my Michael Hurley pin, I pulled out these two Michael Hurley records.
Blue Navigator, which course did you chart? I'm going to New York City. That's where I left my heart.
One of which is on Feeding Tube Records. Their artwork is always great, the layouts are always great, and then, of course, the artists represented are amazing, and the recordings on Feeding Tube usually stand out as exemplary. And I know that folks at Feeding Tube are big Michael Hurley fans, and anybody probably who experiences Michael Hurley in person or on record is going to end up being a Michael Hurley fan. I got this in Nelsonville, Ohio, at the Nelsonville Music Festival this last summer, I guess, of 2024, if we are indeed in 2025. There's a woman, Lindsay, who came to the show in Ohio a couple nights ago, but she was there with Michael Hurley, and it was 11:30, 12 at night, and all of a sudden on the floor there was just a shower of hundreds of Michael Hurley buttons, so I stole one. Michael Hurley is also a painter, in addition to being a fabulous song presenter.
Oh, my stars, how you undo me. Oh, my stars.
I like to listen to the radio, and even internet radio, and I learned kind of about this person, this artist, Kali Malone, pretty much through listening to radio, NTS radio, which broadcasts 2 live signals 24/7. The DJs are based out of all over the world. Los Angeles, there's lots. And there's Sarah Davachi has a show on NTS, and her music is great. I think she does a monthly show on NTS, but she's an LA resident and plays similarly sort of experimental, liturgical explorations of pipe organs and like blurring the line between liturgical and drone music, I guess. And Kali Malone also has a show on NTS radio that's always quite exciting and illuminating. South Pacific, Hawaii. It's usually one of the first places I go in any record store, and there's usually nothing there. I don't understand why, because I get so much out of listening to Hawaiian music. Darren Benitez, I love Darren Benitez music, but he's just, you can't find, he died 2 years ago. He was murdered on Oahu, and the only place you can even find things about the circumstances around his death is just like digging through social media posts from his friends and family and community, because there's nothing on like the police record or in the newspapers. Aloha Got Soul is a musical project. I think they do reissues. They have some sort of radio presence, and they've reissued this record that I've never heard before, Brother Noland, from around 1980. I usually look for Hawaiian records from the late 60s through the early 1980s, and if the songs are in Hawaiian, then I'm usually feeling confident that I'm going to find something on the record that I like to listen to. But there's a lot of instruments on here. We'll see. So this is a reissue. I don't know. Oh yeah, I'll just go into the gospel world. I picked up this Staple Singers record. There's an LA-based musical woman entity named Mira Bellotti who's performed as White Magic for years. I think it was Mira's previous band, Quixotic, with her sister Christina Bellotti, who used to live in Los Angeles. And they would do, I am the light of this world, just as long as I'm in this world. And it was a Staple Singers record. I am the light of this world. This was pre-internet. This was the fun thing to go to record stores, was to look for Staple Singers records and try to find I Am the Light of This World, because you couldn't find it. There's no way of going on a computer and looking for things. You just had to go and look through the stacks. finally got it, and the Stable Singers version is not as good as the Bilotti Sisters version. Clark Sisters.
I've got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright.
On this new record, The Purple Bird, we do a Clark Sisters. There's one cover, and it's a song called Is My Living in Vain?
Is my living in vain?
Written by Twinkie Clark of the Clark Sisters. They were out of Detroit. They were brought into the professional gospel music world through their mother, Mattie Moss Clark. Fierce talent, and I think a fierce mother, a tyrant taskmaster. There's a great Lifetime movie about the Clark Sisters. I'm not sure that I ever would have expected the phrase great Lifetime movie would come out of my mouth, but there is one about the Clark Sisters. Yeah, they kind of mix funk and prog and soul and gospel into one very, very heady, intoxicating mix.
That was great.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.